Hey, welcome to Real News Live. How you guys doing tonight? Hi, Debbie. Hi, Richard. Hi, Nana. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Luke. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Pam. And hi, everybody else that hasn't said hi in chat yet. How you guys doing tonight? We got a lot to talk about and a lot going on out there. We're trying a new goal of $25 a night, if you guys are ready to see it. You know, every donation goes towards the goal of $25 a night, and that's to help people year round so we don't have to stress much at Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving. So if you're able to donate, please do. Definitely appreciate it. First, we're going to start at this is a ridiculous story that came out. Police decided to raid a cancer patient's hospital room, terminal cancer patient, for the use of cannabis products. This is ridiculous. I don't care what state you're in. When somebody's in a life, you give them as much comfort as possible. I don't care what it is, if it's THC to ease the pain. I mean, a doctor told him to do whatever he could. A man diagnosed with terminal cancer has been ticketed, and they've assigned him a court date for using a vape pen and THC paste to ease his pain. Ridiculous. The doctor told the 69-year-old to do anything to ease his pain and decided to use cannabis, a cannabis derivative form of paste and weed pens in the hospital room where he had been for the last 3 weeks. This is ridiculous. Like, I could see, like, if he was out drug trading or causing havoc on the street. This man is dying. Doctors know he won't make it to the date of his court date anyways. But the Kansas police decided to raid the hospital room. It's one of those far-fetched stories that I hate hearing. I hate hearing once and again. Hi, James. Hi, Luke. Hi, Karen. Hi, Minnie. But hearing these stories come out like this, I mean, a medical cannabis is still illegal in Kansas, despite 68% of state residents supporting state-sanctioned medical marijuana access. They just haven't put it on a ballot there. And looking throughout the country, medical marijuana is being accepted pretty much everywhere. I mean, it's pretty much legalized in a lot of states now where you don't even need, or the lawmakers even change penalties for small amounts where you don't even get a misdemeanor charge. This is totally insane. I think it's something like 3 grams worth of marijuana is all he had. This is utterly ridiculous amongst everything else that's going on. This is a story I had to start with, though, because this is a story that gets to my heart of passion. Is when people are in need, true need of medical care. Drugs are expensive. Narcotics are expensive. Message here is police are way overstepping their bounds at this point. We've seen police dragging people around. We've seen police brutality up an increased rise. And I support the police 100%, not to get anybody wrong here. But this is too far. This is going too far for the police. We have lots of stuff going on around the world. Last thing we should worry about is a 69-year-old cancer patient that's expected to live maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah, and we get a woman off, a basketball player that smuggled a vape pen into Russia, and she's a hero. A white old guy dying, and he's guilty. It's crazy. Of course, China's lifting travel restrictions despite surging in COVID cases and a new version of COVID that we have not seen here in the United States, prompting extreme concern for the U.S. and other nations abroad. Many hospitals and funeral homes say that they're being overwhelmed by the worsening COVID-19 outbreak in China. As the government reports just a handful of new deaths from the virus, the surging cases across China are drawing response from other countries, including the U.S., Japan, India, South Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, have already said that they require virus tests for visitors from China. Japan authorities have sharply restricted the number of flights to and from China. It's absolutely ridiculous. China, of course, saying they shouldn't be worried. It's not the cases aren't that bad, of course, but U.S. officials have looked into this and Wednesday and the concerning mounting over the rise of infection and lack of transparent data from Beijing, which is making it increasingly difficult for public health officials to ensure they'll be able to identify any potential new variants because China's not sharing their information. China is not sharing. And they don't want to. The new potential variants, of course, are prompting measures to be reduce the spread. Let's be honest, we don't want a new variant, a new COVID-19 lockdowns, a new restrictions in the United States. We don't need it. It hurt the economy bad enough when we had it here. And while Washington is considering potential steps that could be taken to monitor the rising cases in China and identify potential new variants concerning the emergence here to protect American citizens. Basically, they're trying to restart all the COVID lockdowns and BS we had before. On the new restrictions imposed by Japan, travelers from China must be found to have COVID-19 will have to quarantine in a designated facility for a week. But U.S. has still not announced what they're going to do. Of course, this lift of the dramatic no or zero COVID policy in China and the rampant uptake in cases and the flood of Chinese travelers abroad to New Year holiday events, nearly 3 years from rolling lockdowns, people are traveling a lot. And every 15 minutes, policy changes are being announced. Search for popular destinations has increased tenfold in China. Popular Chinese travel booking sites are reporting sevenfold increase in international flight searches. It's basically like China wants to get this virus out to the world again. The relief, of course, over ending the lockdowns in China has been tampered. Much more nations now in extreme distress. And estimates suggest more than half of all residents in Beijing are currently infected with the virus. So running out of beds is not a question. They're already out of beds. They're overwhelmed from the top down. They want to send it abroad. While Chinese officials say COVID has only claimed about 5,000 lives since the funeral homes are telling a grim story. Lines of coffins of one unidentified building in northern China this week seemed endless. At least by one estimate, the explosion of cases in China where many people remained unvaxxed or undervaccinated could kill 1 million people by the end of 2023 and threaten to unleash new and more dangerous mutations of the virus. It is sad. This is happening in China right now, but it's just a jump and a skip to get here. Yeah, fentanyl is allowed, everything else, and of course, we got a super failure in the Southwest, or all the flight systems. Southwest, of course, the worst. System failure of the U.S. Aviation Department. I mean, literally over 5,000 more flights were canceled today because the system can't handle the pressure of what's happened. Thousands more flights are indicated to be canceled soon as a failure of carriers and low-cost carriers abroad and at home. Southwest Airlines being the worst. I mean, they're at the point where this weather-driven issue is pretty much over with. But the flight delays are so extreme now that there's ridiculous amounts. Yeah, release new variants. That's the key word, Debbie. You are correct about this. And who knows? It's not. I can't say Mother Nature. Biden can't hold anybody accountable because he can't hold himself accountable. We'll get down to that in just a minute. But the big thing is, we have all these disruptions in our country, a new variant that probably isn't from Mother Nature. Let's be honest. We know Boston University did gain of function research studies on COVID already. It made the virus 80 something percent death rate. Made a virus, the COVID, a strain of COVID with an 80% kill rate or above. Of course, we don't do gain of function, so that was just considered medical research. But gain of function is anything that gains function on a virus to make it stronger. So obviously, we need to recheck what we're actually saying. I mean, the storm being severe, the storm that we're dealing with is severe. Of course, we're watching death tolls rise in New York City, where at least 60 people have died. Or New York State, sorry. The aviation system is at a strategic failure at this point. Like, I think it's so far, it's like almost 12,000 flights have been canceled. So people being trapped, having to drive, carpooling mostly. Michael actually just carpooled down. He rented an SUV with 7 passengers, and he 7 people at the airport jumped in the vehicle with him. They just got back to Florida today. So, but who's going to do anything about this? This air, these air companies or Southwest. I mean, the government's going to bail them out again, and who's going to take the money? The CEO last time the bailout happened for Southwest, the CEO actually got himself a bonus. Bob Jordan took a bonus. That's what he did with the money that he got bailed out, the airline. I mean, that's ridiculous. And we know these people have to get their flights reimbursed. I mean, that's a huge amount of travel expenses to be reimbursed. Looking at 9% of their annual revenue, 9 to 15% of their annual revenue having to be given back to customers. Yeah. Well, they're paying $5,000 to get over the border by these gangs, so obviously they're not too hard pressed. Of course, the U.S. is moving more towards the transition to a digital dollar, and while it's not good, but might be good, we don't know. I mean, fewer customers using cash on a regular basis, and more countries adopting virtual currencies. The Federal Reserve and several other major banks last month launched a 12-week pilot program to test a digital dollar. Some experts and activists question whether the digital currency will live up to the potential, making banking more affordable. The question is not will banking become more affordable, but what will the government do now that they can track every single penny and how it's used? You can no longer hire somebody to help you do something. You're going to have to pay taxes like your employer. And they're going to have to pay taxes on the money you give them. This is ridiculous. The government oversight on this and the reach on the government overreach is way too far. And the latest steps by the central bank begin to roll out these efforts following the introduction of the eCash Act in March. The bill, which co-sponsored by 3 other Democrat lawmakers, not passed by either chamber yet, but would call on the Treasury Department to take steps to implement a digital currency minted by the government. The reality is that cash, the physical currency, is on its way out. That's the way the government's trying to do it. They want control over every single penny. They want to know who's using what, where, when, and why. Ridiculous. Of course, practically every economy in some countries use cash already plunging, and I suspect the day will come when the U.S. when the currency is not in use anymore. I mean, it's going to happen. Digital tokens will represent deposits from customers, and the pilot will test how the tokens will settle through the central banking system using a ledger shared by the institution. So basically, the government's going to have a ledger telling them exactly who spent what, where, and when, and how. That means if they don't want you to be able to buy something, say from a liquor store, they just make the purchase not allowed by you. The government's in total control. Yeah, think about going to have to take out a loan for buying a dozen eggs. $10 for 2 dozen eggs today, or $11 what I paid for 2 dozen eggs today in Florida. That is ridiculous. And inflation, of course, is not even a concern, according to everybody else. This shift to digital dollar will just make it easier for people to track everything we do. Hi, Billy from Tampa. Hi, Penny. Hi, James. Hi, Richard. This is ridiculous. McDonald's by me, if you go in and they don't accept cash. You need to use a card. That is ridiculous. See, this is what's happening. I mean, currency is made so we can transfer it without government institutions tracking it. That's the whole point. This is getting ridiculous. Yes, it may cost a little bit less to transfer digital tokens from individuals and businesses, but this is a true privacy threat. That's what this is, a threat to people's privacy. Once an obscure part of the financial technology, digital currencies have become more mainstream in the last 5 years. Cryptocurrencies, though, of course, are a lot more secure, and nobody actually knows the transfers unless you follow each individual coin, as Bitcoin has grown and other offers. But digital currencies by the government will have direct oversight by the government, controlling every aspect of it. I mean, soon you won't be able to take out a loan from anybody privately. The only loan you'll be able to get is from the federal government. You have to take a loan from the central bank, or the Federal Reserve as we put it here. But it's just a complex equation that's not going to be solved by digital currency. And I guarantee a lot of people are not going to like this, with cash being replaced with a digital transaction in many settings. I mean, the question becomes then whether to maintain the viability of money at a retail level by issuing a digital form of currency. And that's what they're going to do. That's their plan. Yeah. Linda, the mark of the beast is right, and implanting chips is right. They're talking about this already. Chip placed in your hand right here. You go up to a cart and a machine, and you just put your hand on it. It reads the chip in your hand, and it takes the currency right out of your account. People will live as indentured servants soon. I can see it happening. People will be living on lines of credit on their money from the federal government. We won't have extra money. We'll have limited money. And that's what the government wants, is restrict the people as much as they can. And that's what's happening. We look around, we know it. It's not a question. Of course, Biden's more worried about what's going on everywhere else in the world. Biden administration working to halt Iran from delivering drones to Russia. Another thing, we're getting in the middle of this war with Ukraine again. We have no right to be involved with Russia or Iran with their drones. The Ukrainian fight with Russia is a Ukrainian fight with Russia. I don't care if we're trying to use it a proxy war. So that's what we're doing. Ukraine is nothing more than a proxy war ground. Russia's actually using their troops, and we're using Ukrainian citizens to fight, providing them weapons and telling them to go fight and forcing them to fight at most points. I mean, Ukrainian defenders are targeting sites where drones are being launched and providing equipment to detect drones from the U.S. I mean, Iranian drones are mostly assembled through parts in the U.S., Europe, and Asia. We're selling them the parts. I mean, Texas-based or Dallas-based Texas Instruments are the main components and technologies used in these drones that Iran is making. We're not limiting them on buying that because we still want to sell stuff. This is ridiculous. We need to step out of Ukraine. That's what it is. Ukraine is a laundry for U.S. money. Luckily, though, Biden did say one thing. Biden on the Supreme Court Title 42 order, we have to enforce it, finally. Biden saying the right thing about Title 42 and having to enforce it, that the policy is overdue and now has to be enforced. A vote of 5-4 in the Supreme Court, the High Court reversing the order from federal judges, was ruled last month that Trump era border policy would end. Set for the expiration date, of course, for the case was February, but now expected to last until June, as Biden wants to extend it. This is ridiculous. Biden wants to step in finally and say that it's a problem. The amount of people crossing the border is a problem. But no, he does not want the wall to be built. He does not want to send more people down there. He just wants the people to be able to illegally enter so we don't have any accounting of them. And that's what's happening. Less accounting of the people actually coming across the border. As immigration reform, is not happening. Democrats have tried to join the Republican side now, challenging to solve the challenge at the border. Title 42, implemented at the start of the pandemic, allows for immigrants to be quickly expelled at the border without asylum processing. The White House tried to declare the southern border is not open, even if Title 42 ends. But yet the White House now said they need Title 42 to stay intact and be enforced, asking Congress for another $3.5 billion in funding to help with the situation at the southern border. Meanwhile, Biden's under pressure to reinstate 42 and faced criticism for months because he hadn't visited the southern border in the months of migrant crisis, decided to finally turn his tail and enforce Title 42. It shouldn't have took this long for us to get to this point. And it is sad. Of course, a lot of people think inflation's done. Gas prices look good right now. But don't expect gas prices to last too long into 2023. Literally, the average price per gallon on regular gasoline today was $3.13, down 42 cents from 1 month ago. Of course, after a record of peaking at 5.2 cents this year, $5.02. But energy analysts say drivers should enjoy the break at the pump while they can, because prices in the new year are set to increase, thanks to a volatile market where global demand continues to outpace supply. The forecast released Wednesday, fuel price tracks from gas buddy predictions and averaged out the bottom around $3 per gallon, and the peak in June around $4 before the supply ending slightly lower than the annual average of $3.49. So we're looking at going right back up in gas prices, $3.50 or $4.50, $5 a gallon again this summer. And those numbers are just an estimate at this rate. Venezuela, we went and signed these contracts to get Venezuela back producing oil for the U.S. through Chevron. And of course, now they're realizing that Venezuela doesn't have as much oil as they thought it did, which is another big concern for the U.S. Hoping and praying on something that we really don't know is not helping anybody. Chinese is, of course, and trying to increase trade to Asia as the U.S. pushes to decouple trade with China. I don't know where we're going to go with that. Sad. got to watch what's happening because there's so much happening in this world. Why can't we drill our own oil again? Well, Putin or Biden did sign a couple leases out, but it'll take a long time. It's going to take a long time. Lip service he gives is not helping anybody. National average up to average $4 by May. Looking around $5 for the peak of summer. Gas prices do not look good for the future. Not look good. Once again, we're trying to raise $25 a night. So if you guys can't afford to donate, every dollar counts. And with the money we raise here goes directly towards charity, helping people feed families, provide Christmas presents. This year we provided Christmas gifts to over 300 children. Thanksgiving we provided over 300 families meals, which was crazy. I want to definitely appreciate everybody's help that was able to help support us in that. But we're trying to do this $25 a night thing to raise money for families in need and try to make it happen. I don't know, not know what's happening in Cuba right this moment. I will try to find out, but I haven't heard anything. I know there's deployments that are heading out, but it's a lot of iffy stuff. That's all I can say. There's no true reports coming out of what's happening. I mean, the economy there isn't growing. No news out of Cuba yet. Well, you got to remember, we have a military base in Cuba. So, God bless you all. I don't know what else to say. I mean, got a lot going on in the world. Hope for the best. Buffalo's still clearing snow. We have the National Guard going door to door checking on people because there's a lot of people that have not checked in as snow gets cleared there. Loss of life has been just disastrous. A triple pandemic overwhelming the U.S. hospitals right now with RSV and the flu, main two threats. Now we have China sending people to make even more people sick. But God bless you all. God bless America. And thank you for any donations we do receive. We definitely appreciate that. Every dollar counts, literally, every dollar counts. God bless you. We will see you Friday night at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Till then, stay safe, keep your head up, and keep your ear to the ground. God bless you, and God bless America. Good night.